Good afternoon and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's public hearing for Wednesday, December 15th, 2021, relative to Bill 2021-2165. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill 2165, resolution providing for the designation as a historic building under Title 11 of the Code of Ordinances, the certain site known as Engine Company 28, located at 700 Filbert Street in Shadyside in the 7th Ward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And our first order of business will be a presentation by Sarah Quinn from the city's Department of City Planning.
Hello, council members. If I might share my screen with you, I have some photographs of the property which will help with my narrative. So, just give me just one moment to make that happen.
Certainly. Welcome. Good afternoon, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you. This view full screen. Okay. So if you look at your screen, photograph 2 is the front of the building, Engine Company 28. The historic nomination for this property came to the city on June 7th, 2021, and it was being nominated by Matthew Falcone of Preservation Pittsburgh. They indicate the date of the property is 1898. There's a plaque on the front of the building that indicates that. The Engine Company 28 building is a 2-story, 5-bay brick building in Italian Renaissance style. The building is located on the south corner of the intersection of Filbert and Elmer Streets, and it utilizes most of the space of the enlarged city lot. And there are some parking spaces along the front, as you can see from the photo. The address, in fact, is 700 Filbert Street, and you can see from the photograph number 1 that the building is a very large institutional structure located in the midst of regular city neighborhood, so it's very, very prominent. Let's see. As I stated, there were plans to construct a new engine house in the center of this neighborhood in February of 1898 when they bought the property at Graham and Baum Street for $10,800. That original site was abandoned, and the site at the corner of Filbert and Elmer Street was selected for the new engine house and was purchased for $8,550. The building was designed by Henry S. Baer, who was an architect that ended up serving as chief architect for Pittsburgh's Department of Public Safety. Upon its completion, the building boasted several features. The first floor included a sitting room, a washroom, an apparatus room, and stalls for 6 teams of horses. Believe it or not. And the second floor consisted of dormitories for 18 men, a workroom, lavatories, and the hayloft. The station opened on November 3rd, 1899, and served the city's 20th ward. During the first years of operation, the station acquired several state-of-the-art horse-drawn engines. So let's go through the photographs real quickly here. You can certainly see the Italianate style in the arches of the building. Here you'll see the doors for the hayloft, for the hay for the horses on the second floor, as well as the arm, although it appears the pulley is missing. Interesting as well, you can see that this tower, which you can see on many of the older firehouses in the city of Pittsburgh, was used for drying hoses. Obviously, synthetic materials weren't available back in the day, so what they would do is run the hoses up almost 3 floors and then back down again over and over again so all the water could settle and then leave the hoses, keeping them from rotting. This is the inside of the hose tower that shows you the pegs where the hoses were hung. And these are modern day photographs. So, it's a credit to the city of Pittsburgh and the fire department that they've just maintained these apparatus intact. This is the ground floor of the garage. Behind these arches here is where the horse stalls were for the 6 teams of horses or 8 teams of horses with the hayloft above. So it's an amazingly intact building. But the Historic Review Commission found this building was significant because of its Italian Renaissance style, and the fact that style fit in very nicely with the use of the building, as well as the fact that it remains intact to this day. The Historic Review Commission also felt that the building was significant because of its architect, Harry Samuel Blair. As I mentioned, he was the chief architect for the Pittsburgh Department of Public Safety at the turn of the 20th century. Interestingly, he was also known for designing theaters, both in the city and outside the city. The theaters that he designed include the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, which is the Regent Theater in East Liberty, built in 1914, the Strand Theater in Oakland, built in 1926, and the Plaza 2 Theater, built in the Bloomfield neighborhood in 1917. And then finally, the commission felt that this building was significant because it's a very well-known landmark in the neighborhood. Its difference between itself and the residential buildings is quite significant. And it's a building that's used for voting, for other community things, civic functions. So, for that reason, they felt that it was significant as a unique location or distinguished physical appearance or presence in the established neighborhood. And then I must say that this building considering what this building is used for, it's amazingly intact. And as I said before, it's a credit to the fire department and to the city that they've maintained it so well. So for all those reasons, the Planning Commission, the Historic Review Commission, and the staff recommends that City Council provide a positive vote on this property. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you for the presentation. It was perfect.
Sure.
I don't have questions. I just wanted to make a brief comment, which is that, this is an important building, both because of the reasons you mentioned, but because of where it's situated. It's in a tightly packed residential neighborhood in Shadyside, adjacent to a commercial district. And as it currently serves as the EMS headquarters, as we start to move and consolidate more of our public safety personnel to the old VA hospital, and over the next 5 or 6 years, potentially could be seeing our EMS personnel moving out of this building. It's going to be incredibly important to ensure that this building remains, has some historic protections, which is why I'm so supportive today. So, I thank you for your research, for your presentation, and I'm happy to, seeing no other council members with questions, I am happy to move on to the public hearing portion of this bill. Unless there's anything else to add, Sarah.
No, it's times like these where I find it's unfortunate that we don't include the interiors of properties for historic designation, but so.
It's a good point. It's something that certainly we can consider as we go through what I'm sure will be significant public process for any future use of the building.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent. Well, we will now move on to testimony from registered speakers. Please give your name and address for the public record, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to address council. Our first speaker is Robert S. Foffman.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Good afternoon, Rob.
Good afternoon, Councilman Strasburger. I live at, my name is Robert Foffman. I'm at 604 Filbert Street, so I can literally look out my window here and see the station. It's been a big part of our being in Shadyside for the last almost 40 years. I remember with Councilman Cohen, we had a big protest out in front of the building in the 90s because it was going to be shut down at that time to make the system more efficient. I think it's important to understand the role of historic preservation and its connection to good planning, especially as all of our neighborhoods feel the pressure of new growth from housing. And all of that is good, but we also have to be careful that our historic structures are a big part of that fabric, and they're not just part of what you look at, but also how you experience the buildings as spaces. So it's absolutely important to think about the interior of this building, even though it's not subject to our ordinance. It's part of a collection of buildings. We have the Liberty School across from us with the playground. The opportunity to maybe do something innovative as a real estate development project where the city just doesn't divest itself of the fire station to the highest bidder, but find some way to protect that first floor as a community space where we can continue to vote there. Maybe there's a coffee shop. The opportunity to develop income from apartments up above and leverage that towards the funds, obviously, the city needs to operate its services. But it would be great to find new ways to reuse these buildings for public use, not just private redevelopment into condos. And I think there are some economic tools and some innovative strategies we might be able to explore in the coming years to make this historic building more than just a pretty picture, but a really important part of our neighborhood, and maybe a model for other neighborhoods that have fire stations and civic structures that often get sold and turned into other uses. So that's my real concern here, is making sure it still plays a role in our neighborhood, not just a pretty face. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ikahana Helmakina. We have Ikahana Helmakina. Final call. Okay. Well, having exhausted the business of this public hearing, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all.